Everybody, welcome to Jacob's Quest, and today we got some brand new Star Wars news. I can't believe it. I just made a video yesterday covering three just news subjects, two big rumors that one of which literally just the next day has already halfway come true. It's already like just a thing that's happening now. Okay, so let's just go into it. So this was the report that I talked about in yesterday's video. Lucasfilm developing an Old Republic movie for 2023 as Rogue Squadron could move to 2024. Now that's of course a big deal because not only is it suggesting that an Old Republic movie has secretly been in the works this entire time, and it's so ready that they could film next year, but also that the movie that we were we were basically promised to have come out in 2023 is now not happening, or at the very least being pushed back. And that seemed absurd. That's like two major news stories wrapped into one, because that's like two very unlikely events supposedly both happening. And yet, here we go. Just to be clear, here we go. This is from Big Screen Leaks. This is what they tweeted yesterday. There's a Star Wars film planning to shoot next year. It's not Taika's, Feige's, or Rogue Squadron. They tweeted that on November 5th. Okay, today is the 8th. Okay, so let's see. We reached out to the source for clarification. And we've learned that while Lucasfilm is moving full steam ahead on the Rogue Squadron movie by director Patty Jenkins, they are taking their time to make sure that the screenplay is just right before filming begins. The script in question, written by Matthew Robinson, has itself received a major rewrite since it was first announced, and Jenkins herself is keeping busy with her work on a third Wonder Woman movie, which she is confirmed to direct, and planned Amazon spin-off, which she is set to produce. Okay, so that is the story from yesterday. That is the story that I talked all about and made the whole video about. Here we go. We also had Jordan Mason back on the 5th, the same day. He tweeted like this kind of cryptic gif of Darth Malak from the Old Republic games. And then he said, "Few tidbits I've heard. It's its own story, not really an adaptation. Been kicking around for a while now," which, again, that's surprising because usually if something's in the pipeline that long, it gets leaked and reported on and people kind of learn about it. And also he says, "Not the only thing in the world for this era." We of course know that Knights of the Old Republic is getting its remake, but maybe even more than this movie and that remake. Okay, so what happened today? Well, Patty Jenkins' Star Wars movie Rogue Squadron delayed. Exclusive from The Hollywood Reporter, which, again, The Hollywood Reporter reporting on it means like, okay, it's just happening now. That's just a fact. That's not even like a leak or a report. That's just like that's just a happening. Wow. Okay, so here we go. Rogue Squadron, the Star Wars feature project due to be directed by Wonder Woman filmmaker Patty Jenkins, has been caught in the tractor beam and will take a little longer to make it to the big screen. Jenkins and writer Matthew Robinson have been developing Squadron for Lucasfilm for over a year, with the goal of starting production in 2022. It was to have gone into pre-production by the end of this year. Okay, so far, so good. Okay. However, sources say that the producers and filmmaking team came to the realization that Jenkins' schedule and other commitments wouldn't allow for the window needed to make the movie in 2022. Okay, so that is the part that I think a lot of people are questioning. Okay, because how do you make it this far in the planning process and only just learn that, well, your director is making Wonder Woman 3 and some other Amazon's spin-off, and that might conflict with our plans to make our Star Wars movie? It seems bizarre that would only dawn on you a year in, which, look, it could be true. It could just be scheduling conflicts, okay? That kind of stuff happens all the time. All I'm trying to say is that terms like scheduling conflicts and conflict of interest, or not conflict of interest, I'm sorry, creative differences, those kinds of terms, those get kind of used as like these, brush over the actual reasoning why, and we're gonna actually go into that. So here we have Jordan Mason talking about this, his 2 cents on the fact that Rogue Squadron is just delayed now. He says, 2 cents on Rogue Squadron. Arguably, it's heartening to see Lucasfilm delay a film rather than simply swap out directors as they've done in the past. shows some learning. I know they're still keen on making it happen, so I don't think it's gone, which matches up with what Star Wars Newsnet said the other day. And you know what? Actually, I agree with that, because here's the truth. The truth of the matter is that, look, all over YouTube and the internet in general, you're going to see a lot of people take this as a way to attack Lucasfilm and Kathleen Kennedy and their planning and their ability to do their jobs. And, you know, in a way, they're right to do that. You know, they're right to make the criticism, okay? Because Kathleen Kennedy and all of them, they're not above criticism. It's just that they are so constantly the targets of like this crazy overreaction from the fan base, and most of it's by, you know, algorithm based grifters who are trying to get those clicks, you know, and basically they have to paint Lucasfilm and Kathleen Kennedy as demons or something, instead of, you know, just people trying to do jobs, and sometimes they make mistakes, you know. So if there is one really genuine thing that I think you can criticize them for, is the fact that, like, hey, they lose a lot of people. You know, like there's been several projects, and we're going to talk about another one in a minute, but there's been several projects that have started, and then at various points in production they just get rid of people. Directors, you know, Solo was basically entirely reshot. You know, Rogue One had to be entirely, you know, the ending had to be reshot. Rise of Skywalker, famously, like there was an entirely different movie that was going to happen, and then they messed, you know, they moved things around at the last minute, got rid of what's his name, and, you know, now we have Rise of Skywalker, you know. So this is a thing that Lucasfilm has done consistently, and again, this does happen in Hollywood all the time, but it is very noticeable when you make these big announcements of like, this is the person making this thing and it's gonna be really cool and exciting, and then a year later, never mind, you know. So it is a thing that seems to keep on happening over and over and over again. However, like Jordan Mason said, I am glad that instead of just saying, well, Patty Jenkins isn't making it, we're gonna bring in someone else to try and finish this project because it has to come out on this day, I'm glad that instead of doing that, they're like, you know what, we're just gonna delay it. We're just gonna like let that happen some other time. Whenever she's ready or whenever the script is ready, it'll get done. There's no, you know what I mean? And that's my main thing, is that, like, as much as I will sit here and defend different parts of the sequel trilogy, I fully acknowledge that, like, if they had just delayed some of these movies, pushed them back a year, you know, let these, you know, give the creative people that you hired the time to actually make the movie, I think things would have been a lot smoother. And so that's, you know, like he said, that shows a sign of learning, that they're not just like, oh, Patty Jenkins can't do it, okay, well, we'll get someone else to do it. It's like, no, Patty Jenkins can't do it, the script's not ready, whichever excuse you want to use, either way, just push it back, delay it. You know, the movie, I'm sure, will happen in some form or another one day, but if it's not ready, then it's not ready. You don't force it to meet a deadline that it cannot naturally meet, you know, with a satisfactory product at the end, and that's a good thing. So here's what else he said. He said, secondly, I heard contracts were signed, spaces allotted for filming a movie in Pinewood just last week. Presumably they knew this delay was coming by then and still have something ready to film. As for when they'll announce that, no idea. I hope soon, but not holding my breath. Okay, yeah, he makes a good point here, and, you know, kind of like what I said a second ago. You do not make it a year into the pre-production of a movie somehow being unaware that your director of this project has made other commitments. Like, they have known about Wonder Woman 3 for a long time, you know, for arguably, you know, a year, if not like 9 months at least. They've known that Wonder Woman 3 is a thing that's happening, you know. So I can only assume that, like, especially if they're like, yeah, we signed contracts, we're gonna film something last week, then yeah, they're definitely filming something, they're doing something, it's not this, and they you know, they knew this was happening. So that gives even more credence to the fact that, like, you know, he even talked about the Old Republic rumors happening here and here. So yeah, I think this is definitely happening. I think we're absolutely getting this Old Republic thing. Let's look at what Big Screen Leaks had to say about this. So first he said, remember when I told you that an unknown Star Wars film is shooting next year and it wasn't Rogue Squadron? His response to this big news. And then he said, now that it's delayed, it's a good time to mention that the film wasn't just delayed because of Jenkins' schedule, but that production on Rogue Squadron isn't going well behind the scenes. It was never going to be ready to shoot next year. Okay, so whether that means that there was some casting conflicts or some other drama, or if it was just came down to the script and the script was just not coming together the way they wanted it to, whatever the problem is, that seems a lot more believable to me than the fact that, oh, they're scheduling, we didn't know Patty Jenkins was going to make these other movies. It's like, of course you did. How could you not have known that? I have known that, so I knew that. I know you knew that. You knew that way before I did, so so yeah, there. And like I said, just like Jordan Mason said, right, like if it's not ready, don't force it. You work on that script as long as you need to. You take your time, you make sure that this is the best product you can put out. Don't rush to a deadline, some arbitrary deadline that, I'm sure there's plenty of movies we could put in that place, maybe even another Star Wars movie, so that's my thing. That's a positive. I know a lot of people are going to spin that to be a negative, like, oh my god, they can't keep their deadlines, they can't keep their production in control and this and that. And okay, yeah, maybe some of that is true to several, different degrees, but I think the fact that they're not forcing this is a good thing. I don't want my products to be forced out, because that's how things get messy. And then all of this reminds me of something. So we were talking about how, it was in production for a while now. Been kicking around for a while now. And that got me thinking, like, hey, wait a minute. How could this super secret movie, something that no one's heard of, like how could we not have heard of an Old Republic movie happening? Like writers had to have happened. Different people had to have been making some concept art or something, right? Like, how could it be possible that an Old Republic movie in secret has been being, like, in pre-production to the point where they might be able to film next year, like, and no one has talked about it? And then I thought about it, like, oh, maybe we have talked about it, because and I mentioned this in the other video, there were little weird whispers about, like, oh yeah, Old Republic something remake game something, like it never turned into anything. And then I remembered these guys. I was like, oh yeah. So back in 2019, Benioff and Weiss exit their trilogy. Okay, look, the duo who in 2011 launched the singular screen sensation Game of Thrones have walked away from their much publicized deal with Disney Lucasfilms to launch a feature film trilogy in 2022. Obviously, before the pandemic, things were going to happen a year earlier, so keep that in mind. So when they say 2022, think, oh, the pandemic, 2023, right? So Benioff and Weiss were supposed to usher in the post-Skywalker era with the Star Wars brand with a 2023 new start story that would take out a new frontier of the era-defining cinema brand created by George Lucas. And basically, the big rumor, if you remember way back in that day, the big rumor was that they were working on Old Republic stuff. Because, Game of Thrones plus Star Wars, Old Republic, right? That was the big rumor happening. And then the idea is that they did write a bunch of stuff, and they did have some stuff mapped out and planned out, and then they just, again, whether it was, in quotes, scheduling conflicts or creative differences, whichever the excuse is, just like Patty Jenkins, they were let go from the project. But as you should know from Lucasfilm, if anything you should learn from behind the scenes of Lucasfilm, is that they recycle content. Any scripts that were not used, any ideas and little plot lines and concept art and any craziness like that was not used in the past, it is very likely to one day be used for something. And so I would be willing to bet that Old Republic treatments that started with these guys, and who knows who might have been working on them since then in the past 2 years now, who knows who's been working on them, but started with these guys. Old Republic treatments have probably been floating around Lucasfilm, just waiting to become something, waiting for a green light to start actual production. There's probably some kind of crazy concept art and a roadmap and all of these plans and these big, all of this whole like big whiteboard of like, this is what we had ideas for, and it was all put on pause because Benioff and Weiss got kicked out. And now it's all just kind of floating here, and Lucasfilm owns these concepts. I would be willing to bet that stuff is just in a big folder, and the moment that, again, for whatever reason, whether it was script problems or genuinely because her schedule, someone at Lucasfilm came up and said, we still got those Old Republic movies, like, they're like at least like the planning stages are mostly done. All they have to do is probably like finalize a script, and they can kind of start things. The planning ideas of what a trilogy could be are probably like laid, like the train tracks are down, and the blueprints for the train is kind of already written down, and they just got to build the train. So that, I don't know if that analogy made any sense, but my point is that all adds up. So if it one day comes out that like, yeah, Benioff and Weiss started this idea and then they got taken off the project, and then 2 years later, because Patty Jenkins, her schedule was busy, and the Rogue Squadron movie just wasn't coming together, the script wasn't working, maybe they can't figure out what the ending is going to be or whatever else, and they're like, let's start that Old Republic thing again. Why not? That all adds up to me. All the pieces of this puzzle kind of fit together. Now, look, obviously, everything is still just a rumor until it's confirmed. I think, not that, sorry. This being reported by the Hollywood Reporter, that's just a fact now. That's not a rumor. So it is delayed. And whatever the official reason is, that it was a scheduling conflict, who knows. But yeah, big things are happening here. I would highly suspect that we're going to hear about an Old Republic movie within the next, by the end of this next year, or even in the middle of the year. We're going to hear an announcement of an Old Republic movie. I don't expect to hear about it this year. That's my thing. Like, probably not this year. We're already November 8th here. We're not going to hear about anything this year. Next year, though, maybe during Celebration, because remember, Celebration comes back next year, guys. I'm just saying, Celebration comes back. Maybe they're like, yeah, we've been filming an Old Republic movie, and that Rogue Squadron's just kind of on the back burner now. It all fits. That's all I'm saying. The timing fits, the stories all fit together, the reporting all fits together. It all makes sense here. Now, there is one final piece to this, okay? One final piece that I have to imagine sooner rather than later we will also know the answer to this, okay? And that all comes down to Kathleen Kennedy, okay? So, remember, her contract, I think in 2018, was renewed for 3 years in October, which means that, just this last month, or shortly after it, which would be now, her contract should have come to an end. So it has either been renewed, or they are in the process of bringing someone else in, and it just has not become a public thing yet. I have to imagine that before this year ends, we will find out which direction it goes, whether Kathleen Kennedy is being, if her contract is being extended again, or if someone else is being moved in. Look, I know that Kathleen Kennedy is a divisive figure among the fan base, okay? Some, and again, just like just like with the news of someone else, I mean, another creative, you know, being pushed back and all that stuff. Kathleen Kennedy is often the target of the grifters and the algorithm chasers and the people who just want to maximize those clicks and those hate clicks and what do they call it? Hate bait, right? You know, so speaking honestly about Kathleen Kennedy, she's done a lot of amazing stuff, but as far as like, you know, some of the ways that projects have been handled, I do think that, hey, there have not always been the best decisions made. I think Solo should have come out in December. I think The Rise of Skywalker should have been given another year. They should have pushed that back. You know, in general, the sequel trilogy, yes, the sequel trilogy should have had an outline at the very least. It doesn't have to have, you know, I don't think it needed all the scripts written or anything, but at the very least, I think a rough outline of like, this is kind of the direction we're headed. Stuff like that, you know, so I don't know. I would not be heartbroken if they do extend her contract. If she's here for another 3 years and they're just like, yeah, she's here again. I'm fine with that because, you know, clearly things are happening behind the scenes here. Like new ideas are being formed, new things are being tried out. Patty Jenkins' movie is being pushed back rather than being given to someone else. Now, if someone else gets brought in, I know that the internet's gonna explode with like, oh my god, Star Wars is saved, blah blah blah. Like, here's my thing about this. There are so many people who have been working at Lucasfilm that are not Kathleen Kennedy. It's the idea that like one person gets, you know, removed from the head or retires or whatever, and suddenly the entire everything is gonna shift and they're gonna decanonize this and reboot that, and it's like, that's ridiculous. That's not gonna, even if Kathleen Kennedy goes away, that's not gonna happen. So anyways, those are just my 2 cents on the Kathleen Kennedy situation. I expect there to be news about that eventually because, you know, if you do the math, it's like, okay, her contracts kind of should have ended right about now. So is it extended or is there someone else coming on board? I don't know yet. No one seems to be reporting on that. Not many people seem to be talking about it either. So I'm sure that will be the next big subject. Well, you know, obviously this Friday we have Disney Plus. We have all, you know, trailers and teasers and stuff I'll be reacting to. But the Kathleen Kennedy thing, that's going to be a big one. Who knows what's going to happen there. So yeah, anyways. What do you guys think about this whole Rogue Squadron movie being pushed back, the Old Republic reports? Do you believe that there's going to be an Old Republic movie? Are you sad that Rogue Squadron is getting pushed back? Or are you happy that, like, yeah, just push it back? Give it the time it needs. Don't rush it. There's no reason to rush it. It doesn't make sense to rush it. Let me know how you guys feel. Let me know what you're hoping for. Let me know your thoughts on the Kathleen Kennedy situation, you know, when we're going to hear about that, because, you know, we're in November of 2021. We should be hearing something sometime eventually. Yeah, let me know your thoughts, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.